After weeks of waiting, San Francisco is finally getting back their all-pro tight end in George Kittle against the Falcons, and while I've seen many say this spells the end to Jake Tonges, I don't think this could be further from the truth. Not only has he been playing like a true number one tight end in his own right, putting up 224 yards as well as 3 touchdowns on the season, he also offers the flexibility to move back to more 2 tight end sets. This means Kyle Shanahan should be able to keep the defense more off balance, because in the past when he did put in another tight end when George Kittle was out there, it was obvious the run was coming, but now with Tonges, you can run play action passes off that running game. And in return, the defense should be less aggressive on those 2 tight end sets, because if not, Tonges or Kittle will burn them deep. And that should open up more lanes for Christian McCaffrey, who struggled as a back this season. So in this video, we're going to go over George Kittle's return, as well as why I believe 2 tight end sets with George Kittle and Jake Tonges could really unlock the 49ers offense. Initially, to start out with the return of George Kittle, while Tonges has done a phenomenal job filling in, he's not the number 1 overall tight end in the league like Kittle is. And with him finally returning from his hamstring injury according to Kyle Shanahan, I'm expecting big things. And I'm not necessarily talking about just the passing game, although he clearly is one of the most dominant pass catching tight ends in the league, but more so in the running game. I think finally he's going to help San Francisco's offense get on the right track. Without Kittle this year, for example, San Francisco's rush success rate is just 42.7, which ranks 26th of 32 NFL teams. Meanwhile, when Kittle steps on the field according to PFF, that rate jumps anywhere between 12 to 15%. If that trend remains true this year, San Francisco would see their middling rushing attack that comes in 26th in the league jump all the way to first, surpassing the Colts, who right now has a rushing success rate of 52.3. And while this isn't guaranteed, it does seem likely as George Kittle takes a lot of stress off Christian McCaffrey. He's a great blocking tight end, and because of his play action ability, defenses no longer can crowd the box, at least at the same level they do without him out there. Most fans know this though, George Kittle is a dominant tight end. But the thing that's changed this year for San Francisco is now he has a phenomenal running mate in Jake Tonges, who also should be able to help out San Francisco's running game and passing game, especially in 2 tight end sets. Last year, for example, over 40% of San Francisco's touchdowns on the ground came on these 2 tight end sets. And that's when the defense could really sell out to stop the run. When another tight end came in, the whole stadium knew it was going to be a running play. Rarely was it a passing play on these 2 tight end sets, especially one that targeted the second tight end over George Kittle. But now with a player like Jake Tonges, I don't think the defense can be so certain. He's a pretty solid blocker and also has shown the ability to routinely get open and get open deep at that in San Francisco's offense. So I did want to look at his film a little bit more to see how it'll fit with George Kittle on the field. Initially, to start out, the first area I think you'll see Tonges more used going forward is as a blocking tight end, because as I was mentioning, this does offer a lot more flexibility in these 2 tight end sets. And it's not like he's been a liability as a blocking tight end. Here going against the defensive end, for instance, he actually does a pretty solid job of first driving him down the field, and then once he does have him driven down the field, he starts to execute the hook block, and right here, watching his footwork, he's able to quickly flip his hips and cut off this much bigger defensive end from the play. And then with this defensive end trying to shed his block, he stays engaged with active hands, and Christian McCaffrey only falls into him because of this tackle from the safety right here. To further highlight his ability as a blocking tight end, once again in this 2 tight end set, he's responsible for blocking this defensive end slanting away from him. So rather than trying to execute a hook block, he takes his momentum where he wants to go, and even with Pooney running into him, he's able to drive him into the floor without drawing any type of holding call. So a pretty solid block here, and in the future, if Pooney is able to kick out this player that made the tackle on Christian McCaffrey right here, this potentially could have gone for a much bigger gain. The true benefit of having George Kittle and Jake Tonges though in on these 2 tight end sets, rather than a player like Luke Farrell and George Kittle, is that the defense can never sell out to stop Christian McCaffrey, and when they do, they'll be burned for it. To really illustrate this point, here on this play, Tampa Bay is sending the blitz with their nickel cornerback, and on the back half, they're running cover 3, which puts a ton of stress on this linebacker as he has to defend both the flats as well as a deep hook curl zone. Meanwhile, 49ers are exploiting this by motioning Christian McCaffrey pre-snap, getting the backer to key in onto him, which allows Tonges to release on this corner pattern. And you can see right here, this backer isn't paying any attention to him at all. Meanwhile, this wide receiver on this play clears out the safety, which allows Tonges to attack the weakness of this defense. Mac Jones sees it, and with this much separation, he's definitely going to come down with it. And all of this really begins because of this linebacker keying in on Christian McCaffrey right here and being maybe a little bit overzealous, thinking Mac Jones is going that direction. And in the future, it's only going to be harder for the defense as they have to deal with other players like George Kittle and Jake Tonges out there on these two tight end sets. And even on this play, you can kind of see what I'm talking about, as Tonges and Christian McCaffrey at the top of the screen really draws the defense up that direction, leaving both Juszczyk and Luke Farrell open pretty quickly on this play. Another benefit of running more two tight end sets throughout the remainder of the season is this gives your offense the ability to chip defensive ends every single time out there. Here on this play, for example, you can see how Tonges chipping number 5 helps Connor Kobe make this block, and maybe if another tight end was in there, it would have helped out Trent Williams on this play block 0. And another thing about these chips, the tight end then can go ahead and release as a wide receiver like Tonges does right here. Mac Jones isn't able to find him. And like George Kittle, he has pretty nice yak ability. Every single time he catches the ball, he immediately turns up the field, looking to get the maximum amount of yardage, and he's always falling forward. It's also worth noting, San Francisco running more two tight end sets would take pressure off their already depleted wide receiver room, and honestly, it probably would be more challenging for the defense to defend. Think about it, would you rather defend George Kittle and Jake Tonges, or George Kittle and Sky Moore? Personally, I'm picking Sky Moore and George Kittle if I'm the defense, because sure, maybe Sky Moore is a little bit faster than a player like Tonges, but with Tonges, I then have to worry about Christian McCaffrey potentially getting the ball and him becoming a blocker, or him making his way out on the play action route. So with George Kittle returning, I do expect Kyle Shanahan to pull out a lot more two tight end sets, which in return should help out Christian McCaffrey be a much more effective runner, and I think headed forward, this could end up helping out San Francisco's offense become the number 1 offense overall in the league. I mean, already right now, they're one of the better offenses at throwing the ball, and if they're able to get the running game going, maybe in part due to more two tight end sets, that could be big. I mean, it really unlocks everything in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Then you can effectively run the play action pass, the defense is then back on their heels, and Shanahan is then left cooking for the remainder of the season. And I think they can really do that with Tonges and Kittle out there. But ultimately, these are just some of my thoughts on George Kittle's return, how it will impact the offense, and how San Francisco plans to use both of their tight ends moving forward. Personally, I expect to see a lot more two tight end sets, but now I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think you'll see an uptick in two tight end sets, or do you think Kyle Shanahan will just rely more on George Kittle and that should unlock the offense? It would also mean a ton to me if you did enjoy this video. If you could go ahead and like and subscribe, it truly helps out the channel a ton. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.